Welcome to Conscious Profits Unfiltered. This is your host, Sebastian Nam.
What's up, fam? Today I had on Sabina Bhatia. She is an accomplished leader and customer champion, tirelessly fighting for the financial wellness of every American worker. As a chief customer officer at Payactiv, she acts as a daily advocate and amplifier for the needs of thousands of corporate clients and millions of lower income workers. After 20 years on Wall Street, Sabina has been instrumental in building the financial category of earned wage access, which is a super interesting concept that we get into in the podcast. Think of hourly wage earners having access to the money they've earned for the hours they've just completed the previous day without waiting for a paycheck. Sabina is a member of the Conscious Capitalism Senior Leadership Network. She's also a mentor for Girls on the Run, a certified skydiver, a 5-time marathon runner, and a 2-century bike rider. Pretty sick, right? This interview taught me about a category that I didn't even know existed and can be a major catalyst for the solution of a widening gap between the lower income hourly wage earner and the high income part of the population. I hope you enjoy the show. Also, have you subscribed yet? If you enjoyed Conscious Profits Unfiltered, please show me some love with a little review action, and more importantly, share it with a friend or on your Insta story or wherever, whatever form of support you choose. I will be extremely grateful for it, guys. Thanks again, and enjoy the show. Sabina, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Hey, Sebastian. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. As am I. Sabina, I like to start my shows by asking my guests, when was your last oh shit moment? So that can mean anything from something super serious or just something like small. Just what's the first thing that comes to mind when you're like, oh shit?
Well, Sebastian, that should be an easy answer because I have oh shit moments every day. And I'll tell you what I did most recently. And everyone I spoke to had a great laugh. And they said that I was human. So I drive a electric car. And a few days back, I was on a conference call in the car. For some reason, the battery was down to like 10% on my car, and I drove into a gas station. I thought the gas station would solve my problem. And I sat there and I did the rest of my conference call for 9 minutes. And I said, oh, okay.
And then what?
And then I said, oh, this is not going to solve my problem. Let me leave. So yes, after driving an electric vehicle for more than 3 years, I drove into a gas station thinking that would solve my problem.
That's great. I feel like soon enough gas stations should have some sort of high speed, high powered, EV charging station, you'd figure.
You would think so, but
they wouldn't make them money though.
I highly doubt it.
But maybe they can charge a premium or something. That's an interesting thing. That's great.
I would actually do it just for the stores. They have those retail stores.
That's true.
Do it for that. And I've done that. I sometimes drive to Napa and I have a set location where I stop, I charge my car, and I walk into the store and I buy a snack. So they should totally do it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. New business idea coming up. So Sabina, I'm just going to read off some of the awards that your company has achieved, and then we're going to get into some other stuff. But this is within just the past 5 years. Best for the World B Corp, Digital Wallet Impact Product Design, Financial Company of the Year, Consumer Champion, Corporate Social Responsibility, Excellent Sustainability, Best of the Show, Top HR Product. I mean, this is pretty awesome. So let me start by going back and asking you, what is the most unconscious or least purpose-driven thing that you can remember from your younger years, either as a girl or just as a younger woman, that you think that was not very purpose-driven?
Well, growing up, I looked for shortcuts to doing things. And I can't think of a specific event, but I thought being effective did not really require spending a lot of time. Instant gratification. And that doesn't take you far. So I've learned growing up, and those are in my teen years, growing up in India, and there's always a lot of pressure growing up as a child there.
Yeah.
to get certain amount of grades. There's you are 18 and you're supposed to achieve this, and you're 20 and you're supposed to
Mm,
achieve this. There's all that. And when I moved to New York when I was 18, right, after high school, I very quickly learned that instant gratification is not always the best way to go. So I would say that was one of my unconscious
yeah. Sabina, do you feel that some of those things that are instilled into young Indian women, and like you said, there's so much pressure to achieve, to do this by X time and this like that. Do you feel that some of that stays in the subconscious, that you still like, you check yourself today where you're like, okay, that's the voice that's telling me to do X, and you're feeling that self pressure?
I still think about it.
Yeah.
But when I grew up, those were different times. India has progressed a lot. The
Mhm.
role of women, um, their education backgrounds were always strong. We were always encouraged to study hard, not just do your undergrad, do your master's.
Yeah.
But life has changed a lot. The culture has changed a lot. I would say that I still think about it. I would say that there needs to be a fair balance, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up and my favorite channel used to be, MTV. And, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, two of my favorite channels were 90210 and Melrose Place. And, that's not America, right? Maybe a little piece of America, but that's really not the culture. So I think, just going through being educated, not just academically, but to understand what is relevant in your environment is important, to find that balance. Everything
Mm.
does not have to be related to Melrose Place and MTV.
Yeah.
So America is a great country, and working hard and being able to see the results of your hard work is something that I relate to more. And so I think uh, that is the conscious effort that women and Indian women and immigrants in general uh, should really look forward to.
Wonderful. I love that. Sabina, you are on the Conscious Capitalism Senior Leadership Program. You mentor for Girls on the Run. You're a certified skydiver, a 5-time marathon runner, and a 2-century bike rider. You're rounded AF, Sabina. I mean, what is gnarlier, the marathon running or the century bike ride? What's crazier? What's harder?
Uh, I would say marathon running,
Yeah.
because you are, doing the same movement for such a long time and all by yourself,
Yeah.
right? And you're on your feet. The fun thing about the marathon running is that you get to see so many things that you don't get to see when you're driving, right?
Right.
And it's amazing to see that when you run the marathon, the people that you least expect to beat you will beat you, right? And then it just like tears your heart apart. I remember my first marathon was the Paris Marathon many years back, like about 15 years back. And there were twin brothers that were running in front of me. And they both had only one real leg each.
Wow.
I could never beat them, Sebastian. And those are my younger years, right? I wanted to really beat them because I thought I would be stronger because I beat them. I could never beat them.
That's
So
powerful.
talk about willpower, right?
Yeah. And that's
It's yeah,
inspiring too. To see them beat you is super inspiring for you.
awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I actually had a pretty good time. And when I finished, I was like, no way, this is not as good as I could do it.
Yeah.
So it was a very inspiring moment. So those kind of things,
Yeah.
running for 4 or 5 hours, hopefully closer to 4 than 5. But the things that you see can shape your life.
That's wild. I've never ran a marathon. And I'm I'm fairly athletic. I do a lot of physical activity, and I feel like so much of that is in your head, right? Like it's got to be super mental when it comes to a marathon, because I feel like I can run 5 miles And I feel like I hit a wall, and I'm like, I tell some of my friends, I'm like, I could never run a marathon. I say that. And they're like, you can. Like, if you're running 5-6 miles, at that point, it just becomes it's very physical, but it's even more mental, right?
It is, because you're by yourself. You're in
Yeah.
the zone, and all you're doing is stepping forward every second. That's all you're doing for all those hours.
Yeah. That's a
That
long time.
little track, that's all you're doing. So, it is in a big way mental. Of course, you have to be physically fit,
Yeah.
but you don't have to be at that 100% point to
Sure.
finish a marathon. There are people who run 7 hours and they
Yeah.
finish a marathon. And I would think that is even more difficult because, oh my God, you were running for 7 hours instead of me who's running for like 4 or 4.5.
Right.
Those things.
Interesting. Yeah. That's super cool. Sabina, at what point in your life did you decide that purpose should go, or that profit should go hand in hand with purpose?
I say this to everyone and I'll keep repeating it. I'm not going to find a new story, right? Because it's real. I believe it was 2008. I was part of the 2008 crisis. I was working on Wall Street. I had worked as a hedge fund analyst for close to 20 years. And I felt like I was getting older for the hedge fund community. I didn't think I would grow a lot more. But at that point, I saw the financial stress in New York. I saw the financial stress among my friends and colleagues who were making six-figure incomes, right? I also saw the recovery from the 2008 crisis, at least the short-term recovery. And, my mentors came to me and they said, you have such a diverse finance background. You can do so many different things. Why do you have to be working for a hedge fund as a hedge fund analyst? Go do something crazy, have fun. And I think that was my tipping point where I had all these conversations with my mentors and I felt like I had the freedom and independence to go and do something that truly makes me happy.
Yeah.
But I can do well financially too. So
Yeah.
the whole concept of helping the American hourly workforce, which is about 44% of the American workforce.
44%
Yes.
hourly.
They
Wow.
are in the front line of industries. So
Yeah.
Sebastian, when this weekend you go do your groceries and you
Yeah.
check out, that person who checked you out,
Yeah.
took your money and bagged your food, that is the person that we want to help. And
Yeah.
you want to help them because if they're not in a good mood and if they're not performing well, you're not going to be in a good mood the
Yeah.
rest of the weekend, right? So you want to help them. And really that became one of the things I wanted to do and help businesses in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. I love that. And it was at a time of crisis that you had this sort of shift in the way you saw your potential career and looking to building purpose into that and seeing that you can build purpose into profit. And that's so interesting that 44%, I didn't realize it was that high. And you're very right. I actually had dinner this weekend with my girlfriend, and I was just like, we had a shockingly really bad service by this one server. And with all, you try to have so much practices that go into like, I'm not going to take this personally, I'm still going to enjoy this time, but it's most of the time like somebody can really affect your day and they can affect your mood, and then that sort of trickles. So like you said, the more unhappy that everyone is, no matter how high or up in the socioeconomic ladder they are and the type of job, right, the happier people are, and that trickles, right? So
Right. And, you have to believe that at least I like to believe that there's something going on in their life which puts them in a bad mood
totally.
or gets them
Absolutely.
disengaged. You cannot say 44% of the American workforce, they're just all bad people.
No.
You can't do that. I'll tell you, you talked about a restaurant, and many years back, I was sitting with one of my friends in New York and, having lunch, and I waited for my food. And then finally I got my food in like 40 minutes and something simple that should have been there in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right? we ended our meal and I just gave like a horrible tip. And my friend stopped me and she said, "What are you doing, Sabina?" And I said, "Oh my God, the service was horrible. It should not have taken 45 minutes to get me my appetizer." And she said, "Well, was the appetizer hot when it got to you?" And I said, "Yeah, it was fresh and hot." She said, "Well, it wasn't the server's fault. It was the kitchen's fault."
Okay.
Right? So the food didn't get there for the longest time. How can the server help that? It's different if your food is cold and the server just didn't get it to you on time. You cannot do that. And I immediately corrected myself and I gave the server a good tip. So you have to be conscious of these things. You
There's
can't.
two things going on there. There's two things that I think are interesting because this is very similar to my situation, right? So just let's go in on this for a second. So one is is the server, was that person still being kind, apologetic about the length of time that you were waiting? So that would be one thing if they were, and if let's say they're not and they're just rude about it still, do you feel that you still feel compassion for that person? They must be rude to you because they're having a rough day. Maybe they're having something that's, going on in their lives, health-wise, with their family, themselves, economic, whatever. Do you still have the compassion and then you still tip them really well, even though they treated you not well? Or do you also think, okay, if I reward bad behavior, I'm just going to essentially just reinforce the bad behavior, and that's not really going to help? How do you see that situation?
My first reaction is, why don't we start with the benefit of doubt?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know this person. I don't know this person's life. Why don't we, next step should be a good step. So let's give the benefit of doubt, right? I also feel like, once again, what you do is important, but Sebastian, how you do it is even more important, right? So someone comes and apologizes to me. They can do it in two ways. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about the service here. Let me try and correct it. I'm going to do this for you." Okay.
Right.
Two, "I'm sorry, this did not work out for you." So the first one is a better response than the second one, right? And especially when you are referring to a industry which is primarily hospitality. So you have to be careful. That's just the way it is. So what we are trying to do here, and my purpose really is to really help employers understand this is the life of your worker. And more than 50% of the workers are essentially saying that financial stress is my biggest problem. There are many other issues, right? Let's not ignore those. That is one problem we can try and solve.
Right.
So if I can help it solve that, maybe they will be nice to 50% of the Sebastians and Sabinas that walk in.
Yeah.
If not 80% or 10%.
I like this transition into what we're going to go into, because at the end of the day, we're speaking about a very specific life, day-to-day example in which a hospitality worker may be experiencing financials. 50% of them may be experiencing financial stress, and thus that is reflected in the way they are treating the customer, right? So let's get right into it. Your company, Payactiv, is based on the concept of earned wage access. So EWAA, earned wage access, is something that you have been involved with since the beginning in 2012. Explain exactly what earned wage access is.
Sure. Let's take a look at a salaried worker first. So I get paid a salary. If I just leave for a couple of hours and come back, do I get paid?
No.
Of course I do. I get paid 8
Oh,
hours.
I thought you meant at the time. Got it.
No, but I do get paid for the hours.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. So I don't work on Saturday and Sundays. Do I get paid? Of course I do get paid for those hours. Now let's take a look at an hourly worker, right? They have to punch in and they have to punch out to get the right approved hours hit payroll. Okay. So when you talk about earned wage access, right? So it is earned. It's not a loan. It's not any kind of credit they're getting. It is hours that they have worked.
You're exchanging your time for money directly.
Perfect. Yes, it's about time, and it's about time we help them, right? So earned wage access, what it does is an hourly worker clocks in, they clock out, but traditionally they have to wait to get paid whenever payroll is processed.
Right.
What we do is we give them access to up to 90% of their net earned but unpaid. So not tomorrow's hours, not day after's hours, just hours that are completed to date. And in fact, even today's hours, we don't give them access to unless we know that the hours have been completed. So it is their money, essentially.
So it's
Right.
starting from, let's say, yesterday until the last paycheck.
Exactly. Day one. So from the 1st to the 12th of this month. If I've earned it and I need it, we make sure that they are able to access it. We fund it. They can go into our platform. They can access their funds. The employer doesn't pay anything, zero, zilch, nada, right? But you have a happier employee. So that is what we do. That is earned wage access, right? But why? What is going on is the bigger issue. Like, what is the purpose of doing this? And the purpose is the 200 billion in predatory fees that hourly worker ends up paying because they don't have access to the work that they've completed.
So basically, we're talking about most people being on a paycheck to paycheck, but really not even paycheck to paycheck. They're one paycheck behind. Just one or two paychecks behind is causing them to max out their credit cards, to get into debt. And if they just have access to what they've actually earned starting from the day before, it just creates a snowball effect of positivity into their, financial health, from what I'm understanding. Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the show.
Sebastian, not even one paycheck, just about $100.
Wow. Yeah.
That's it. That gets them through their week. And these are workers that make $15, $16 an hour.
Yeah.
And all that they ask is $80, $100 to just get them through the week, where they can spend the money on gas, which is,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
In California, $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
The gas station I go and visit sometimes for no reason, $6 a gallon. So just to get to work, to earn a living becomes a problem. And then they go to payday loan places. Then the utility gets shut off. Then they pay late fees, disconnect fees, reconnect fees. So, overdraft fees. Overdraft fees is a big problem, right? People pay $35, $40 in overdraft fees, and annually it's close to 30 billion.
Wow.
Yes. Now think about if we take that same 30 billion and put it in this economy. Wouldn't that be way better?
That's crazy. That is a wild number. So let's take Steve. Steve is a real life example user of the platform Proactive, and he's somebody that needs this. How does that work for Steve?
Sure. We get time attendance data from the employer. It's automated nowadays.
Yeah.
Every employer has some kind of payroll system or time attendance system. We know when an employee is clocked in, clocked out. We calculate what their 90% net could possibly be. We get that information from the employer. So the calculation is pretty easy. And an employee basically enrolls into our program. They go into the app and they can access those funds which accrue every day. As we get the TNA data, it accrues every day. They go in, they see, oh, I have $300 to access. They can access it by sending it to a Payactiv card, to sending it to a bank account. They can even transfer those funds to Amazon and buy groceries. They can take an Uber ride. They don't have to ever worry about, do I have a credit card and is there money in there? Do I have a bank account? Is there money in there? Your money is here inside the Payactiv app. So Payactiv just becomes their banking alternative.
This is super cool. It's very, it really is really cool. When I honestly had no idea about Payactiv, until we got introduced to each other. I had no idea this existed. I'm grateful that I'm not necessarily the target consumer of it, but what I mean is this should be known. This should be everywhere. It's an incredible way to think about it. It's actually quite simple to think about. It's not like a crazy concept, and I was going to ask you is, a real life example of the company. How is the company benefiting? And the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is the company's benefiting by having happier employees, people that are able to access the money and have reduced stress, which means that they have a better output for the company. What other advantages for the company are there?
Well, today in the American workforce, about 35% consider themselves to be freelancers. So imagine an employer who says that, it's going to take me whatever 3 to 4 months to go hire someone. And this person decides that I'm going to leave in the middle of the shift and I'm going to go fill in an Uber ride because I'm going to get paid that day, right? So they do have to deal with this new gig workforce, freelancers, this whole community. That's just a very different mindset. So it helps them to recruit people. So an employer can, in their job listing say, come work with us. You can get paid any day you want. You don't have to wait to get paid. So now, why would a worker say, you know what, I don't want to work here. I want to go and pump gas across the street at that gas station, because when I'm done pumping gas for the day, they'll hand me $50 and I'm done for the day. That's what I
Let me ask you something, because I got a little lost on there was a quick glitch in the Wi-Fi matrix there. How did the freelancer come into play? That's what I missed.
So today, the American workforce, 35% consider themselves to be freelancers.
Okay.
That is your audience when you're trying to hire, to fill in a shift or, some job that requires you to.
Yeah, I've got about 30 freelancers probably between our agencies.
There you go. So, for them, they will go where they get satisfied, and they will go where they get paid every day or any day.
The quickest. Yeah.
Yes, that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Why should they wait? And they can go ride for Uber and get paid any day they want. They have a car, they can do that. So why should they come and work with you and then wait 2 weeks to get paid? Here's the other problem that we are seeing today, which is during the pandemic, so many people didn't work. So today, the people that you're hiring, don't forget, there might be a huge population out of that hasn't worked for ages. So now, if they are a new employee and you pay in arrears, they might have to wait for more than 2 weeks to get paid. Now, the same person, because of the pandemic, might be supporting the extended family today, not just their immediate family, because the extended family lost their job, So it's just so messy. And all we are telling employers is that they've punched in, they've punched out, they've finished. Just give them a percentage of that. That's all.
That's great.
And jumping in for it.
That's great. That's awesome. I love it. Really cool business model. Honestly, it's good for everybody. It's
Yeah.
awesome. That also helps move the economy. It stimulates the economy because the people have the money right away.
Correct. And
Yeah.
Sebastian, you made a comment. You said that, you're very fortunate that you're not in one of those situations, at least today. So you're not necessarily our direct user. You actually are, Sebastian. You just don't know that. And I'll tell you why. How much do you pay for a movie ticket nowadays? Like $15, $16?
Like 20, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Right?
Yeah,
You can
probably.
go into our platform. We have a marketplace, and you can buy a movie ticket for $8.
So you guys
That's
have
how I see
partnerships.
my movies.
So you have partnerships with certain companies that give you discounts and things like that. So that's a little add-on for the person that maybe doesn't need, because I'm not an hourly earner, but I can still use the platform.
100%. So EWA, that is how we started. So that solves the immediate liquidity issue.
Sure.
What we saw is we surveyed users and asked them, when was the last time you went to a benefit platform or your company website? Like, why should we go there? Either we are not qualified for the benefit or there's nothing there for me. Okay, then my next question to you is, how often do you go into your banking app? Every day. Why? Because that's where my money is. So what we saw is that our users kept coming into our app because that's where their money sat. So we said, okay, we'll solve your liquidity issue, but it's very expensive to be poor, right? You end up paying so much in fees and all kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So we not just want to give you access to your liquidity, we also want to help you save the money that you have. So instead of paying $15, $16, $20 as you might be paying in Santa Monica for a movie ticket, why wouldn't you pay for 2 movie tickets for $20? So I get my movie tickets on our platform. I also get prescription discounts on my platform. I also take Uber rides through my platform. So I don't touch any other funding. I just use my earned but unpaid wages. Why not?
Wonderful. That's awesome. And you guys are a certified B Corporation. So what are the main pillars that helped you become certified B?
So our score, let me start by saying our score is 103.4. And the average, I believe, is like 50 something.
Yeah.
So, 50 something is like the minimum you need to
Yeah.
pass.
That's
Now,
incredible.
yes. So, we are a certified B Corp, but I will say, Sebastian, being a business for good, making a quantifiable impact, making an impact on communities, users, businesses, was always in our DNA.
Right.
Corp just legitimize what we were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel that I'm also on the conscious capitalism board, so this is sort of my language, but for people that they're not passionate about this, I see the certified B Corporation label. I'm starting to see it more and more on a lot of CPG brands and things that you see in the store, whatever that may be. Do you feel that there's going to be a point where certified B becomes mainstream? And if that is, when do you see that happening? Because that would be an incredible thing.
Yes, listen, it's already grown a lot in the last few years. I do think businesses care.
Yeah.
I do think businesses have the power with their resources and their influence to make a change. And I do believe more and more businesses are looking for purpose to see what good are they actually adding, right? Small
Yeah.
things like you're a technology platform. Are you using that for good? Or are you using it to maneuver through something that is not necessarily considered to be good, right? And so I see it growing a lot, which is why the huge conscious capitalism movement. I'm also a member of the Senior Leadership Network. You are part of the board. I mean, look at this. We didn't know that before we started our podcast today. Deja vu. So there's more and more of that.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is that people outside of B Corp are curious when they see that B, are curious to understand, well, what does it mean, conscious capitalism? You do not have to disadvantage someone to make some money. It's not necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's a big part of my purchasing decision. If I've got two things, one of them has that logo, no brainer.
Right.
And so I hope that more and more people learn and know about it, because I think a lot of people don't even know what it even means. So this is what we're trying to do, right? So I was curious, how is a fintech company sustainable, right? Because there's so many people in technology, and they have apps, or they work for a fintech company. How does sustainability come into play?
Uh, well, the way I look at it is that what is your offering, and what impact are you making, and can you quantify that impact? We grew as an EWA company, and as many other EWA companies started to pop up. There are a lot of smart technologists, and in Silicon Valley, there are tons. There are many innovators, but you want to be an innovator with a purpose, which is how our company started. So, we are on a path of growing. We don't want to be a commodity product. We want to grow, and we want to look at different ways we can make impact on that same workforce, and maybe more. So today, I can make an impact on your life this weekend, right? By using the technology platform, by using the right partnerships to make sure Sebastian does not pay 2.5 times for a movie ticket when it's not necessary. So, those things have to be done. If you don't do that, many things could happen, right? Sure, you could maybe just get acquired by a bigger giant that who's doing all those things that we are trying to do over here, or you just disappear, right? And our path has been of growth, being open-minded, understanding the impact, and making the changes. You've got to use the technology for good.
Technology for good. Absolutely. Yeah. People, I think there's such bad rap on technology and fast growth, and even our social media platforms and things like that. I think it's just like any tool. You can use a knife to stab somebody, or you can use it to chop up some organic vegetables for your salad. So I think at the end of the day, it is their tools, and using them for good is so important. I agree. Sabina, we are experiencing massive inflation. This is due to money printing and a lot of other things. It seems that the gap between low income households and people and high income is really widening. So outside of things like what we're talking about here with your platform, how do you see this getting better? Do you see any sort of solution that can help this widening gap?
A great thing is happening in our economy, and that is the hourly workforce now has power, has a lot of power. Because last couple of years, when we were in the pandemic, while a lot of us were hiding at home, did not want to go to a grocery store, did not want to go to a pharmacy, did not want to go to a movie theater, all that, we were afraid to get sick, to get a virus.
Yeah.
The definition of essential workforce became bigger. It's not only the healthcare worker in a hospital or a nursing home or a senior living community, it is all those people who have to step out of their house to make sure Sebastian's grocery is checked out, Sabina's package is delivered that has her medications from a pharmacy. Those hourly workers became essential. And now those same hourly workers are going to businesses and saying, it's about time. You cannot have one set of benefits for the salaried workforce and then a whole different set of benefits for us, whether they align to our needs or not. That will not work, right? You have to meet our needs. So there is a switch. The unfortunate place that we are in is, and we did a study on understanding the livelihood of our workforce through every state. We went through all 50 states. And if we define livelihood as your basic, can you cover your food, clothing, transportation?
Yeah.
If you covered that, your next stage is of empowerment, dignity, savings, all those things, right? And we saw that 48 out of 50 states, the livelihood could not be covered, right? So, what we need to
Wow.
make sure is that liquidity that they need is covered. There is a solution for that. And, so if I'm going to spend the last couple of years growing this economy, why shouldn't I participate in the growth of the economy? It's because of me you survived. Otherwise, you would walk into a grocery store and there would be no food on the shelves and no one to check you out. It reminds me of some of these strange movies I see sometimes. It's scary. uh, where people are trying to get some food and there's nothing in
Yeah.
stores and there's a hurricane coming and all
Yeah.
those crazy things. None of those things happened to you and me because they took care of us. So I think that problem has to be solved. Otherwise, once again, food is more expensive, gas is more expensive, transportation is more expensive, and we can finally feel it, and people cannot afford to do it. And
Yeah.
the reason they cannot afford to do it is not about increasing their hourly rate by 30 cents or 50 cents. That's not going to solve the problem. Just give
Mm.
them the liquidity, help them solve that problem. And I think that
Mm.
will help.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think it's a really interesting solution that frankly hadn't really even been on my radar until we were talking about it. So I'm glad we're having the conversation. Sabina, many people are having this issue, right? So if somebody's listening out there and they're actually living paycheck to paycheck, outside of having access to something like this, what would you say should be the number one thing that you would recommend that they do first to get their finances in place?
Get access to your liquidity. You've earned it, you need it, you should be able to access it. Work with organizations that allow you to do so.
Simple enough. Sabina, what are the two traits that you believe a conscious leader, that your two top traits that a conscious leader must embody today?
Simple as, what is the purpose? What are you trying to do? That is really important. And it can be very, very simple to answer that question. I have that answer for me every day. And I compare it to where I was before 2008. Purpose was very different. Today, I can feel the purpose every day because I can pick up the phone and speak to a user, and a user will tell me, thank God for Payactiv. I could
Mm.
go buy milk and diapers. I get goosebumps. I feel so much bigger and awesome, right? So, purpose, I think, one, it's important. The other thing I feel is keep doing what you do, but how you do it is very, very important. Don't just go and do something. Think about how you're going to do it. Think about how you can continue to do it. Because if you cannot continue to do it that way, it's probably not the right way. So I think those are some of the things I go by. And give the benefit of doubt. Just give the benefit of doubt. I tell businesses all the time when they, if a business comes and tells us, nah, we don't want, Payactiv, because my workers just need to save and I cannot have Payactiv. So I ask them, if you don't give this to them, what are you trying to solve? What are you trying to solve by not giving someone what they deserve? And they never have an answer for that, or they are too embarrassed to give me that answer. Well, then
Well, I
that's it.
love what you just,
Give it to them.
I love it because you brought back what we spoke about earlier when we were talking about the waiter thing. And it's the how, not just the what. And I think that can really apply to anybody out there, no matter what the job they're doing. Because when you go about what you are doing with an intention, with passion, with love, good things will come to you, regardless if what you're doing is, a very basic type of job and things like that. And for a conscious leader to go about how they go about things is extremely important. So
Agreed.
I love that. I love that. Well, Sabina, thank you so much for being a conscious leader yourself. You truly are one, and keep championing what you are doing in this movement. I love it. It's wonderful. People will have access to links below when they're listening to the podcast to access Proactive and things like that, and get a hold of Sabina. And again, thank you so much for being on today. Keep doing what you do.
Sebastian, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. You know, it takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.